So it's probably going to be Liz Truss. That's basically what our Conservative members poll is showing. She's got a lead of about sort of 61 to 39% for Rishi Sunak. So everyone's kind of operating on the assumption that she's going to be the next Prime Minister. Labour obviously having come out with a big announcement on cost of living the other day, you would expect at least one of the two Tory candidates to be announcing something in the next couple of weeks. The question is, if you're Liz Truss and you're expecting to win that election, do you want to save it all up for the big announcement on the steps of Downing Street, or do you sort of give in to the pressure beforehand in the risk of Rishi Sunak perhaps announcing something that tries to...
So it's not as if she doesn't have anything up her sleeve. You think with that sort of lead, it is hers to blow?
Potentially, yes. Although the measures that they've announced so far don't seem to be in the same league as what Labour's announced. So that's certainly putting some pressure on to sort of up the game in terms of the scale of what they might want to announce.
When we look at how the two candidates are rating with the public, can you see a sort of correlation between big policy announcements or hustings or media appearances and then a shift in the dial?
I think possibly more media appearances. So one of the big changes we've seen is that Truss's ratings have gone up throughout the campaign. Partly as there's been a lot of supportive media coverage of her compared to a lot of her rivals, especially when it was in the MP stage. We saw lots of negative headlines about Penny Mordaunt, for example. So Truss's ratings have gone up. In the first debate, she came out really poorly, but her performances since then have been better. Conservative voters have rallied round her to an extent, and her ratings on all sorts of different attributes, like being a strong leader or being compassionate, etc., those have all gone up quite significantly among Tory voters as they've started to see her as sort of one of their own.
What Liz Truss is less keen on is governmental intervention on energy prices. In other words, whatever we pay out now will have to be taxed upon later. Do you get any reflection in your polling that people are concerned? I mean, we've been through this, of course, through the furlough scheme and whatever, which was all very nice at the time, but people realise it had to be paid for.
Yeah, there's one of the things that struck me throughout the whole of the pandemic was we were doing focus groups at various different points for different clients. There would always be at least one person. So there would be a general acknowledgement, yes, it's good the government's done this, the furlough scheme. It's good that the government is helping people in this difficult time. There would always be at least one person who would make the point quite rightly that at some point this is going to have to be paid for. So the question at the moment is, yes, there is a lot of positive poll results about the idea of helping people out with bills. The question is whether or not that same argument that this is going to have to be paid for has also cut through, or whether the public see it as a similar kind of emergency situation where we'll figure it out later, something just has to be done now. And there is some evidence that it is that, but it's a tricky thing to actually ask people about because you get different kinds of responses depending on how you ask the question.